Oh my yog, Elwynn Boar and Paladin, what has the world come to? Hey, Future Webs here, and I forgot to mention in this video that I'm a little bit sick right now, and I did switch the order of the video releases between this and the one on Wednesday. So if I sound a little bit different in the video, that's the reason why. And if I'm a little bit less energetic than usual, even though that's quite a hard task to actually have, that's probably the reason why, though it should be a little bit less noticeable in this video compared to the other video that I swapped this around for. And now back to the normal video. If you can't already tell, we're doing another Elwynn Boar deck. It's been a while since I've done one of these, and I figured why not try in a class that isn't notorious for actually doing a Elwynn Boar deck. And I thought it would be kind of funny to use Arthas as the portrait just because of the fact that he turns into the Lich King once he gets Frostborn, and in this case he'll be getting the Sword of 1,000 Truths. The idea behind the deck is to basically use Secret Paladin as a engine to draw through a bunch of your deck, so you can get to your boars as quickly as humanly possible, so you can get the sword as quickly as possible, while also having tools to actually deal with some of your opponent's actual threats and put pressure on the board when you're not actually relying on the boar strategy. While some of my decks aren't always the most competitive decks in the world, I will have to give a warning for this deck in particular before we even get into the games, that this deck is a very heavily meme style deck and is not meant to actually win that many games, though it does allow you to actually use Elwynn Boar in a Paladin deck, which is the main goal that I set out when making this deck. So there are two key things that you need to look out when you're actually playing this deck. The first thing is, if you have Lightforged Cariel out before you get 7 boars to actually die and your 7th boar is alive when your opponent has a bunch of minions on board, you're going to actually lose the game. You will equip the sword, but then you won't be able to attack with it, and that brings up the point that this deck doesn't really have an easy way to kill their own boars quickly enough without just making them go into your opponent's minions. If you're ahead in the game, this will never come up. And the second thing you're going to have to look out for is shuffling too many boars into your deck. There are cases where you shuffle so many boars in your deck, you end up top decking them a bunch, like this clip, and that actually loses you the game. While they are your win condition in the deck, you do need to know when to use the Northshire Farmer and when not to, because there are cases where if you're already far enough behind, the second Northshire Farmer will just lower the consistency of some of the tools that you can actually draw into, such as the Truth Seeker, Lightforge, or Liberum of Hope. There were quite a few games where I lost because I didn't get these, but instead I got a Elwynn Boar that I had randomly generated off of the Northshire Farmer. And for the Mulligan guide of the deck, you usually want to keep Elwynn Boar in your opening hand. This is always a good card. You're going to want to put this down on turn 1 if you can, so you can get it in rotation for rally. And if you have Elwynn Boar in your opening hand, cards like Gift of Luminance or your Northshire Farmers are actually pretty good to keep in your opening hand. Otherwise, always mulligan away both of those cards. And the cards that you're normally looking for outside of Elwynn Boar is a card like Sword of the Fallen, so you can cycle through your deck as quickly as possible. Murgurgle is also a great card to keep in your opening hand just because it's a great turn 2 play. And Galloping Savior is the secret that I usually want to keep in my opening hand if I can see it. Though if I'm facing a class that I know has... However, if I'm facing a class where their questline is actually pretty common, then I usually keep Oh My Yogg in my opening hand just so I can maybe snipe out their questline if I'm going first. Otherwise, probably mulligan this away. The final 2 cards that I usually keep in my opening hand are Alliance Bannerman and Northwatch Commander. This really depends if you have a secret in your hand, just so you can draw a minion from your deck. If you don't keep this. Alliance Bannerman is always good though, no matter the case. And with that being said, let's go find some games. Alright, time for a game against Priest. Okay, so this opening hand doesn't look terrible. We're going to mulligan away the Truth Seeker just because Sword of the Fallen into a Northwatch Commander is actually pretty good. And then we mulligan into the second copy of Truth Seeker. I don't know how often such things happen to you all, but it is annoying when it happens to me. Okay, so Bannerman isn't bad to see. It is another draw card, which is pretty good. So it's Questline Priest, so this might be a little bit awkward of a game. We're going to use our weapon, attack base, and then pass the turn back. Okay, so they're going to coin out something. They're testing Oh My Yogg, which makes a lot of sense. So I'm assuming they're going to try to fight Insight. Ah, Shard of the Naru. Interesting. That didn't really affect that, but I guess they did get Oh My Yogg out of the way. And we don't have a secret anymore, but we misplay a little bit because we could have just attacked and gained a secret anyways, but oh well. Drawing into the pack mule off of the Alliance Bannerman is pretty good. This gives us a way to stall out. Okay, the second Sword of the Fallen, but we don't really need it right now. We can just play the Northwatch Commander and then gain a minion. Though there is one issue with this. We do have a poisonous minion on their board, so it could be a little bit bad for us. I'm going to play down our Truth Seeker. Okay, so Wand Maker. I'm assuming they're probably not Death Rattle. It's been a while since I've actually... There's a lot of different versions of Questline Priest that it possibly could be, to be honest. Okay, so that's a little bit interesting. I'm going to put down the Sword of the Fallen, and then just go face. We could also use the Rally. We would be missing a 1-drop, but doesn't really matter too much. Okay, so they're triggering Oh My Yogg with Renew. Well, that's a 1-drop that I didn't really want them to get, but it is what it is. Shard of the Naru is annoying, but we don't really care. Putting more 2-drops into the pool for Rally. Actually, the funny thing about the boar is the boar doesn't matter if it gets silent or not, just because of the fact that you only need 7 of them to die. And that is quite of a waste of a weapon removal. There's our boar, and then we have enough mana to actually shuffle some boars into our deck. Then we can just keep going face. Actually, the funny little synergy within this deck is Galloping Savior is actually a beast, so you could actually target it with the Northshire Farmer if you really felt like it. But most of the time, if you had to target something else within the deck besides the boar, you're going to probably target your pack mule, just because of the fact that pack mule would give you 2 minions instead of 1 whenever you drew into it. Okay, so we're going to be able to do a lot of weird different things. We can use Gift of Luminance to actually target the boar, or we could allow the boar to die and then use Rally and then use Gift of Luminance, which gives us 3 boars instead of 2. One nice thing about this being Questline Priest is until they can actually get their quest line complete, we actually have all the time in the world to actually just get our boars. And if we get the boars done before they can actually draw into their quest line, we're actually going to win the game no matter what. But that can be said about like any deck, I guess, too. Okay, so they killed 2 more boars. And there's our second Rally. Then we can use Hand of Adol on the Galloping Savior, draw into another boar. Okay, we're at 5, I think, right now. I think this is the 5th one. We just need 2 more, and then we should win the game from this position. To be fair, we should actually win the game pretty easily from this position, no matter what, but... Okay, so they are Death Rattle, kind of. Sucks that they had to use that now instead of when they have their questline reward complete, but... Okay, so Cariel is pretty good to see here. And I think we're just going to pass the turn. And it did hit the right minion that we actually wanted. Though the issue here is the pack mule is a 1-of in our deck. So we're not actually going to be able to copy it in any way unless we use a Northshire Farmer on it. But there's no point really. Okay, interesting. They're going to freeze our minions, heal themselves for a bit, that's fine. That's actually a really shocking card to see in Questline Priest, but I do like that card a lot, especially in classes that don't really have any way to heal themselves easily. Especially if you're going for like a bigger deck. Okay, so that's our 6 Elwynn boar. So we just need to top deck one more, I think, at this position. I'm gonna put down the pack meal and then just go face. The other issue is, how do we kill our 2 boars once we do get them? Okay, so they're getting closer to completing their questline reward. And as long as we draw a boar here, we should be fine.
My palm is purple, not really red. I'm undead, not dead.
Ah, that's how we kill our second boar. Them having a death rattle that actually triggers our death rattle. And that is the perfect top deck, just what we wanted to see. We're going to set everyone's HP down to 1. That might look like a mistake, but we're perfectly fine with doing it. And now we have the Sword of Thousand Truths. And something that I learned from last time, it doesn't actually have to hit face to reduce the mana to 0. Too bad they're not Miracle Priests, because then they could have actually done something here. And then we can just keep hitting face here. It's nice that they give it free durability just so it can eat through the entire HP pool of your opponent. And now we just win. Alright, time for a game against Warrior. So they are probably questline. That is always the case whenever I face a Warrior deck. We are going second, so we aren't going to keep Oh My Yogg. We're going to mulligan everything here away just because we don't have a ELWYNN boar, so the farmer would be completely useless. And this opening hand is a lot better. We do have Galloping Savior for a turn 1 play, sort of Fallen for a turn 2 play, and a turn 3 play in the form of Northshire Commander. Oh look, it's Questline Warrior. Who would have expected? Well, gonna put down Galloping Savior, then pass the turn back. Of course, they can't trigger the Galloping Savior on turn 1, so we could actually coin out the Northshire if we really felt like it, or we could just use Sword of the Fallen and then do a little bit damage to their minion. Though Oh My Yogg in this matchup isn't the best card, just because of the fact that I don't know how many spells Questline Warrior actually uses on average. We can use Northshire Commander here, or North Watch Commander. And then we can just go face, or actually keep the durability on our weapon. It really depends on what we want to do. I'm going to keep the durability on the weapon just so we can actually get a third secret out of the deck, so we don't have to draw into it. Okay, so they're going to go off a little bit here. So I'm assuming they're probably actually going to trigger the Galloping Savior, which is pretty good for us. And if they don't, that's also good, just because of the fact that it limits how many cards that they're going to put down in one turn. And they do trigger the Savior. They're going to attack into the Savior, killing it. Okay, so that's our second commander. I'm going to place him down. Getting a boar, which kind of sucks, but it is what it is. I'm going to kill the 2-1, kill the 4-3, and then pass the turn back. Okay, so they're triggering Oh My Yogg here, which I actually didn't expect them ever to do. And it's going to buff up our commander, which is great. Okay, so they'll kill the pack meal, which is fine. We do have a big taunt down next turn if we really feel like it. Yeah, we're going to actually need to put down the big taunt. I'm always scared to leave any type of minion up when I'm facing questline. Going to kill the 4-2 and then pass the turn back. So we are in a pretty good position actually in this game. Sure, we're at 13 HP. If we draw into a Libram of Hope, we're actually going to do pretty well. There's actually some other things I kind of want to do with Secret Paladin as it currently stands. It's a shame that this actually serves as the best way to actually make Boar Paladin actually work as a deck. So they're putting down Mr. Smite, which means we should be less afraid of him having Mr. Smite at this point. Though we're going to do something that is probably a bad idea, but we honestly have to do it just so they don't have a way to have Mr. Smite down on the board. We're just going to hit ourselves with Mr. Smite. The fact that Mr. Smite is just such a big threat to us on the board is something that we honestly need to deal with as quickly as possible. Okay, they're triggering our second Oh My Yogg, which is again a shock, but I'm happy to actually see it. So they're getting a secret off of it, which kind of sucks, but is okay just because of the fact that I don't think most of the secrets can actually affect us that much. Unless it's Oh My Yogg. Oh My Yogg could actually affect us in a very bad way. Okay, so they're getting Captain, which I honestly don't want to see right now, but there's our Libram of Hope. Just exactly what we needed. Such a fitting name for that top deck, to be honest. Okay, so they're going to put down their questline reward, which shouldn't shock anyone. Though we are going to have to actually attack into that just because I don't like leaving 7/7 worth of stats on the board. Which means we're probably not actually going to get any face damage in with it. Carriol is also a very hopeful top deck. We're going to place down Carriol and then slam our face into their hero. And luckily the boar actually took the hit for us. Okay, so they've dealt with our board. Though if we do get a second Libram Hope, which is possible, no Elwynn Boar, I guess that's fine. We can just play this. We get a taunt from it. The good news is we do have a lot of ways to reduce our damage taken. So no matter what, we're just taking, I think, 4 damage here. I'm going to play Murgle down, then attack into one of their minions. I'm trying to make the hard decision between putting down Bannerman or a boar. Just because of the fact if we play down a boar, the cannon barrage could hit the boar and thus allow us to actually get our sword off. But if it doesn't, then we would have been a little bit screwed. I'd rather have the threat of the Bannerman on the field, but it died anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Now that's annoying, especially given the fact that what I think I'm about to do is try to kill their entire board using Lord Bravo. Or Mirbo, I guess. Gift to Illuminates, that doesn't actually do us much here. We're going to top deck something. Now that's interesting to see, but I don't know how useful that's actually going to be. I'm going to put down the boar and then shuffle more boars into the deck. Kill the cannon barrage just because that's the most damage. Then we can actually leave everything up here, but I think I kill the... yeah, kill that just because of the fact I don't want them gaining more armor. And the nice thing is, if they don't have Mistress Smite left in the deck because we already killed it, they have no way to actually make their questline reward instantly give them some type of reward off of playing more minions. That's a little bit annoying, but we can still deal with it. We're probably going to attack face with all the minions first and then use the attack with the Lord just so we can actually kill their entire board. That is a perfect top deck. I honestly should have hero powered before. I don't know why I didn't. Gift of Illuminates on the Truth Seeker actually puts a taunt up, but I don't think that was actually necessary. And in this position, we should just win the game. They have no way to actually kill our 4/5 Truth Seeker, which is actually pretty good for us. That's going to be a little bit annoying if it hits the Northshire. If it hits face, we're actually pretty good, and it does. Never did I think I would have said if that hits face, we would have been good. And they give up. Alright, now that we're through the games, let's discuss my final thoughts of the deck. So overall, the deck did relatively poorly. It wasn't as bad as I would have expected it to be, but it definitely isn't that competitive. Between this and Boar Priest is a lot more consistent just because you have ways to actually revive the boar besides relying on the Northshire Farmer, which is a card that is really annoying in a lot of games just because, which actually lowers the consistency factor of the deck just because of the fact you'll more likely draw into a boar than anything else in the deck. But that's what you have to do to make this deck work. If you want a fun little deck to play against some friends, this is a great deck just because they won't expect it. But overall, I do not recommend you trying to use this in ladder. With that being said, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, bye bye.